There's a moment that doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly. A pause in the chest. A weight that doesn't hurt. Exactly. Just sits there. You notice it when the room is calm, when nothing is wrong, when you should feel relief. Instead, there's this dull pull. Not toward a person, toward a feeling you thought you left behind. It's not longing, not regret. It's something harder to name. You don't miss them. At least that's what you tell yourself. Your body agrees. No rush, no ache to call, no urge to hear their voice. And still, something lingers, a thin thread, almost invisible. Most people would say that's healing, that the absence of pain means progress. But that's not the part most people notice. What they don't see is how strange it feels, how unfamiliar it is to not miss someone who once mattered. Even when they caused harm, even when distance was necessary, there's a quiet discomfort in that gap. You replay small moments, not the good ones, not the bad ones, the neutral ones. A look across a table, a shared silence, a sentence that never finished. Those moments don't demand anything. They just hover. And that's where the confusion begins. Because the world expects grief to look loud, to be dramatic, to ache, but this doesn't ache. It just feels unfinished. You start wondering what kind of person doesn't miss someone who hurt them, what that says about your heart. Whether something inside you shut down without asking permission. There's a subtle guilt that comes with the quiet, as if not missing them is a betrayal. As if caring was supposed to hurt longer, people around you move on easily, or so it seems. They cut ties. They talk about closure. They say things like good riddance. You nod. You smile. You even believe it. But later alone, you feel the absence of something that was never safe. And that's harder to explain because you don't want them back. You're sure of that. It's not desire pulling you. It's not love asking for another chance. It's something quieter happening underneath. A sense that a part of you is standing in an empty room listening for footsteps that won't return. Not because you want them, but because you were used to listening. That's where it starts to change. The mind tries to make sense of it. It looks for logic. Maybe you're colder than you thought. Maybe you didn't care as deeply as you believed. Maybe the connection wasn't real. Those thoughts don't land gently. They sit heavy. Because you know how deeply you feel, you always have. You feel things before they're spoken. You sense shifts in tone. You carry other people's moods without trying to. And yet here you are, not missing someone who left marks. That contradiction stays with you. Sometimes you catch yourself defending them in your head, not to others, to yourself. You remember their pain, their history, the reasons behind their behavior. You understand them too well. And still, the emotional cord doesn't pull the way it used to. There's relief in that and discomfort. Relief because you're no longer bracing yourself. Discomfort because your heart doesn't know what to do with the space. Most people think the struggle is about letting go, about breaking attachment. But that's not the part that keeps you awake. The harder part is realizing that the bond changed long before the separation. It thinned quietly, without a fight, and you didn't notice until it was already gone. That realization arrives slowly, in fragments. You remember how often you explained yourself, how often you softened your words, how often you stayed quiet to keep peace. You remember the way your body felt around them. Tense, alert. You didn't call it fear, you didn't call it hurt, you just adjusted. That adjustment becomes a habit, then a way of being. You learn to love without expecting safety, to care without receiving care back. And somewhere in that process, something in you learns to step back, not dramatically, not with anger, just enough to survive. But that's not the part most people notice. What they miss is how deeply you stayed present even while pulling away. You didn't detach emotionally. You over-attached internally. You held their emotions, their struggles, their unspoken needs. You carried what they couldn't. And when the connection ended, you weren't left with longing. You were left with exhaustion. That's the part that doesn't get named. The tiredness that comes after holding too much for too long, you don't miss them because missing requires energy. It requires space to ache. and you use that space just to stay steady. There's a strange calm that follows, not peace, not closure, just quiet. At first, the quiet feels wrong, like something important went missing. But over time, you realize it's your nervous system finally standing down. No more scanning, no more anticipating moods, no more bracing for impact. That calm can feel empty if you're not used to it. You might even mistake it for numbness, but it isn't numbness, it's rest. And that's where the deeper understanding begins to surface, very gently. You don't miss them because the relationship taught you to disappear in small ways. Not all at once, not visibly, but piece by piece. You learn to fold yourself smaller, to wait, to listen more than speak. And when someone leaves after that, there's nothing left to chase, because you already let go of yourself while staying. That realization doesn't come with relief, it comes with a quiet sadness, not for them, for you, for how much you gave without noticing the cost, for how long you stayed emotionally available to someone who wasn't. You didn't stop missing them, you stopped needing to reach. That difference matters. Most people assume missing is proof of love, but sometimes it's proof of dependence, and sometimes not missing someone is the first sign that your system feels safe enough to stop reaching outward. This isn't strength in the way people talk about strength. It's not resilience. It's not growth. It's awareness settling in. You begin to see that the connection was sustained by your sensitivity, your willingness to feel, your capacity to hold complexity. When that stops being required, the bond loosens naturally, not because you're detached, but because you're no longer compensating. That's a hard truth to sit with, because it reframes the entire relationship. It suggests that what kept it alive wasn't mutual presence, it was your endurance. And once endurance is no longer needed, the emotional pull fades. You don't miss them because your body remembers what it was like to stay. The tension, the self-monitoring, the quiet self-abandonment. And it doesn't want to go back. Even if your mind still tries to make sense of it, even if a part of you wonders whether something is wrong, nothing is wrong, something ended when it needed to, and the absence you feel isn't longing. It's unfamiliar space, space where your attention used to go outward. Now it has nowhere to land. That can feel disorienting. You might find yourself waiting for the ache to arrive, as if grief is overdue. But grief doesn't always show up as missing. Sometimes it shows up as a gentle refusal to return to what cost you yourself. Toward the end, things slow down. The questions soften. You stop trying to analyze why you don't miss them. You stop comparing your response to others. You let the quiet exist without naming it. And in that quiet, there's a subtle recognition you didn't lose the ability to feel. You reclaimed the part of you that no longer has to. The part that doesn't chase harm disguised as connection. The part that doesn't confuse intensity with closeness. That clarity doesn't announce itself. It just settles. And for the first time, the space where they used to be doesn't feel empty. It feels neutral. And that neutrality is its own kind of truth.